Good morning, friends. Happy Tuesday to you. Welcome to another exciting day in Empires and Puzzles. And with today comes a brand new portal. The Untold 2 portal has returned with some more ice heroes to take a peek at. And it looks like they featured a brand new 5-star and a new 3-star as well. That's kind of fun, so be on the lookout for him. But our job here is to take a closer look at what they've released for our new offerings here at 5-star. So it looks like we are going to get a ice hero. It's going to be Ranger class. And a reminder, the family bonus here in this particular group is going to be the Frost Core. So Arctic Core. As the Arctic Core charges, it's going to do fun stuff. In fact, there is a definition of it right here. Arctic Core. So the more damage they take, the more it charges up, and then what it does when it activates says all enemies receive the Corrosive Frost for 3 turns, which when fully charged will do, it says 500 frost damage each turn and lower the target's attack by 15%. Deals extra damage against heroes with minions and mega minions, and the frost damage is scaled according to the charge on the Arctic Core. Okay, so very strong frost dot, pretty interesting. We're pretty familiar with these cores by now with these characters, but still 500 damage a turn can be quite a bit. She also, of course, has the Empowered Frost passive, which is going to give her the ability to nullify any frost damage she takes and instead receive boosted health, 450 boosted health, and 5% mana each time frost damage is applied to her. So obviously that's a nice little benefit. Although there isn't a ton of frost damage in the game, it can be helpful when going up against other heroes of this particular family as well. Her Aether Power is Dodge. That's going to give her the additional 20% chance to dodge at the beginning of the battle, which is definitely interesting, but not necessarily that powerful. Last but not least, let's go down into our special. Hunter's True Shot. This will be activating at very fast speed, so very fast makes me think it won't be doing a ton of damage. Attacks the target and nearby enemies with Frostfall Strike, dealing 1500 damage. Deals 40% more damage if the target is of the fire element. This special skill never misses its targets. Okay. Now, I just want to point out that much like most of the characters in this family, that 1500 is an awfully inflated number. If we click this question mark here under additional info, it'll give us a more realistic view of what we're looking at. So the base damage is going to be 750. So she's actually a Reaper hit, 750 to 3 targets. It can go up or down based on, the spread between this character's attack and its target's defense. But this character also cannot be affected by buffs that do attack. So unfortunately, it's not easy to buff her attack up because in reality, the only way to do it would be through growth effects. That's part of the reason why the damage for these characters tends to fall off a little quicker than some of the other characters in the game, is that it's incredibly stat dependent. So if your stats start falling behind the curve, which happens with the power creep, of course, then the damage from these characters falls off much faster. Now, because of that, I think it's best not to rely on the pure damage of these characters, but rather their abilities. And the good news is the Arctic Core already pumps out a bunch of extra damage, so let's see what else she has for utility that might make her good into the future, regardless of damage maybe falling off sooner than other characters. So next up in her special, we have the target and nearby enemies receive 705 bleed damage over 3 turns. Okay, 705 is not going to be a ton of bleed damage. We're looking at about 233 damage per turn. So, I mean, it is operating at very fast and it is hitting 3 targets. So if you can hit all 3, I guess you're doing 700 damage per turn in bleed damage if you count the damage across 3 characters. So that's kind of interesting. And then also it says the target and nearby enemies receive Mark of Bleed for 5, or is that 5 or 3? I'm sorry, my glasses. There we go. All right. Whenever a marked target receives a bleed damage, they gain a stack, max stack 10. Each stack increases all damage the target receives by 5%. Okay. So we've seen this Mark of Bleeding done before. It's a very interesting effect. I like it with this character specifically because each time that they take bleed damage, they get this stack. In theory, they're bleeding over 3 turns when she attacks, so she should be leaving 3 stacks on 3 characters, assuming it doesn't get cleansed off. The nice part about that is that the stacks don't disappear. So even if the bleed falls off, she can, in theory, leave 3 targets with plus 15% damage taken after 3 turns. Operating it very fast, she's applying this damage buff fairly quickly. Again, this does require that the bleed not get cleansed, but even if it does, she's operating it very fast. So how long before she's popping more bleeds up? I'm pretty sure that she will be operating faster than any dispeller they have. And even better still, you could attack teams use her to bait out the dispel, right? So you basically use her, hopefully the spell goes off early, and then you follow up with a really strong dot from one of your other characters. It's kind of a fun way to go. Same thing defensively, this character is probably going to pop off relatively quickly. It might make the attacker interested in cleansing this effect off, blow their cleanse early, and then again, if you have a defender with a stronger follow-up effect, then they might have to wait until they can fully cleanse it off again, and it may cause a lot of drama and issues for them. So if you're building a dot team, she might be very interesting as a way to get that whole process started. Um, I think if we had to rate this girl overall, I like her very fast speed. I like the stacking damage debuff that just doesn't really go away. I like her dot. The truth is, I think that powering up these cores are a fantastic way to go. 500 damage per turn. Like, let's ignore the rest of her damage, right? Her bleed will be doing 233, but if she's maxed out her frost core, she's doing 500 there. So that's 733 damage per turn from dot effects. Not to mention the fact that she did just do a strike on 3 for 750. She does do a lot of damage. She's operating at very fast speed. I think she's pretty cool. She might be more effective defensively, maybe. I think that I say that only because I feel defensively it will be easier to charge her core, which is where you're going to see a lot bulk of her damage coming out. So like if you use her defensively, you might want to even consider popping her in a, I mean, I don't know if I'm ready to say tank role, but it might be interesting, right? Because she's going to be doing a lot of frost damage very quickly in that tank roll, stacking those increased damage debuffs from the bleeds and everything else. I'm not sure that'd be a good war move because of the idea of wanting to have long-term sustainability in war. But for raids and stuff, I think, yeah, maybe they get her down, but how much damage has she done before she goes down? And the rest of your team just has to mop up what remains. I could see that as being a very effective way to go. You can flank her in war, probably, and then she's going to still take a significant amount of damage, getting her core charged up, and she's going to continue to give them a headache with her very fast special. So yeah, this character, I'm going to put her at an 8 out of 10. She's definitely above average with the speed and the damage that she can pump out. Um, I mean, I guess in theory she has the potential to go higher. I'd like to see how well she holds up in more of a tanky role. I think if she actually has survivability in that extent, then she might be a reasonable tank, especially if you can keep her alive. But I don't know if I'm ready to commit to that yet. So right now, 8 out of 10. If she ends up being more tanky, because right now all of these stats are based off of putting everything into the attack path. I don't know if maybe you're more suited if she goes more defensively, but worth noting that if you do put points into defense, you're lowering her overall attack, and that will reduce her dot damage. Remember that dot damage will be based off of her attack stats, so just understand that by trying to make her tankier, you're reducing some of the damage that makes her ideal as well. It's a very delicate balance. That's why I'm still putting her at an 8 and not ready to commit to the idea of her being a reasonable tank. Okay, everyone, I know I kind of went off on a tangent there, but it was kind of interesting to theory craft that a little bit. I hope you have a wonderful morning, and we will catch up with you soon.